Maybe we see that it's on Lamed Daled, Lamed Aleph, an hour edition, the Vilna edition, and it's from the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines down. Last one in the line. Rav Nachman Yaakov said, Amra Haveli Giti. Now, let's get a couple, actually it'll be easier if I get the ground rules straight with you guys before we begin. There are two types of emissaries for Gittin, which are then further subdivided. There's a Shliach Lo'olacha and Shliach L'Kabbalah. A Shliach Lo'olacha is a Shliach who brings the get on behalf of the husband somewhere. A Shliach L'Kabbalah is the Shliach, the agent who receives the get on behalf of the wife. A Shliach Lo'olacha, of course, represents the husband, and therefore, it would seem as long as he has delivered the get, the husband can revoke the shlichus. Okay, he can say, "You're no longer my agent," renounce the shlichus, and the get is null and void. Or rather, at least the shlichus is null and void, and therefore the shliach has no authority to give the get. He's no longer the agent representing the husband. However, Shliach L'Kabbalah represents the wife. So while the wife can negate the Shliach L'Kabbalah, the moment the get reaches the hands of the Shliach L'Kabbalah, since he represents the wife, the get is valid. And then the husband can no longer renege on the get. Despite the fact the woman herself has not received it, when her agent, the Shliach L'Kabbalah, the Shliach for receiving the get, receives it, at that point the divorce is finalized immediately. Okay? Now, the question is, there's several questions we're going to discuss. One of them is, if the woman appoints a Shliach Kabbalah, how does the husband reverse change that and make the Shliach into a Shliach L'Holacha? Which, of course, is to his advantage, so the get doesn't take effect until it actually reaches the hand of the woman in that case. Also, can a woman appoint the Shliach L'Havah, a shliach to bring her a get, but not that the get will be effective immediately at the moment that the shliach receives it, but rather that the get will only take effect the moment it actually reaches the hands of the woman. Is there such a concept as well? Okay? Those are several of the issues we're going to discuss. So it says, Rav Nachman Yaakov said, Amra Haveli Giti. She said, bring me my get. Okay? So Havei is not usually a language of Kabbalah, but it doesn't mean to accept the get, but rather to bring me the get, which means it would seem that she wants the get only to take effect when it actually reaches her hands, right? Now the thing is, he muffed up. He said the shliach intentionally, unintentionally went and said to the husband, Ishtcha Amra, your wife said, Hiskabeli Giti. Your wife said to me that I should accept the get, not just bring her the get. So if it's bring the get is only effective when it reaches the wife. If it's accept the get would be effective immediately upon the receipt of the shaliach. So the shliach misled, again, either intentionally or unintentionally, the husband. So again, he went and said, Ishtcha Amra Yiskabeli Giti, your wife said, accept my get. Even though the get actually reaches her hands, ain't no get. There is a actual segment in which the get is not in the hands of a shliach, and that's a big no-no. A get can never be in the hands of an individual who's not authorized to deal with it. Now, that doesn't mean you can't put a get down in your house in a drawer. What it means is that there's a time at which the get has left the jurisdiction of an individual who's entitled to have, has authority over it. Because the husband thought he was giving it to a shliach l'Kabbalah, so he didn't appoint the guy a shliach. On the other hand, the shliach did not accept it on the basis of the shlichus which the wife imparted to him, because he didn't say it was a shliach l'havah, he said it's a shliach kabbalah. So therefore, the husband's validity terminates. The husband's authority terminates when he gave the get over to the shliach. The shliach's authority does not exist because he wasn't authorized to act as a shliach l'kabbalah. So therefore, at that point in time, the get is a nullity. It's null and void, and it can never be resurrected again. Okay? Why is that? Because the husband was on the assumption when he was giving the get to the shliach, then the wife was getting divorced. She only is divorced, however, in this case, not when it gets to shliach, when it gets to her. Hey, Rav Huna Bar Chia, question 14, do we learn? Yerushalmi Gittin, a woman who said, accept me my get, and you'll get, and then, it's missing here, but it's, and then the shliach goes and says to the husband, I was appointed shliach to bring the get, not to accept the get. So ain't a get that she'agia get liyoda. It's not again until it reaches her hands. So, but now he has Rav Huna Bar Chia's question, get liyoda, ain't no get? It should not be a get, and that's how it cases to all. Again, for the same reason, she's for she miskaresh midas shliach, right? She thought she's getting divorced at the point that the shliach accepts the get, because she appointed him a shliach to accept the get. Via miskaresh telling me daito, yet in that case it's not going to work, because, in fact, in that case, the shliach, when he went to the husband, only accepted upon himself to be a shliach holocha, shliach hava, not a shliach kabbalah. So therefore, there should be a time lag in the middle here as well. Says more, it's not comparable. This is the case, this is a case where the husband knows the halacha, not necessarily as Talmud Chacham, but because he thinks actually that this is not a valid shliach. So therefore, shliach kabbalah, because the guy said he's not a valid shliach kabbalah. So if it says he's kabel uschei beholech, he says the guy take it, which is lav dafka, it doesn't mean accept it, but rather acquire it as a shliach halacha. So therefore, in fact, here, since the husband was under the impression this guy is supposed to be a shliach havo, shliach halacha, meaning that the get should not be a valid get until it reaches the hands of the woman, so therefore he appointed the shliach as such, and therefore there's no lag in which the shliach, the get is in the hands of somebody who cannot act as a shliach for a get. Is that clear? Is that clear? Dashel? More or less? See, the husband overrode. In this case, he was he's always entitled to override, but in this case he overrode and saved the shlichus, because had he not overridden it, so there would be a lag between the shliach who's accepting the get and the actual effectiveness of the get when it reaches the hands of the wife. But in this case, the husband, since the shliach misrepresented himself and said he wasn't a shliach to accept the get, but only a shliach to bring the get, and the husband confirmed that shliach, so in essence, the shliach becomes a shliach holacha. That's what the Yerushalmi is actually saying the husband is not making him a shliach hava. Had he made him a shliach hava, except that he's a shliach hava, that might not work. But either because there is no such concept as a shliach hava, which is a big question, is there really such a concept? Or because he knew that there might be something fishy here. In other words, he overrode his being a shliach hava and made a shliach kabbalah and made him a shliach holacha.
If he doesn't override that, then there's a problem with mamzeret.
Well, of course, yeah.
She thinks she's divorced when she's really not.
Of course. Well, it's only assuming she got remarried in the meantime, right? Yeah.
In the first case, there's no problem, but in that second case, he has to override. Otherwise, it's really a problem with mamzeret.
Why would there be no problem in the first case? It's also a problem.
In the first case,
she thinks she's divorced.
No, she thinks she's not divorced.
No, she thinks she is divorced eventually. She doesn't need to get his parcel. Anytime you make the get parcel, it's going to be a problem. Eventually she's going to be divorced, sure. Okay, that's always going to be a problem.
I thought she thought in the first case that she's not divorced until she receives the get.
Yeah, we're saying both cases is not a get. Yeah, well, actually, we're not saying. The first case said it's not a get altogether. She won't necessarily know that, right? Second say it's a get when it reaches her hands. At that point, as long as she's owed to. So could still be a problem. I'm saying if she got married before the get reached her hands. Okay. It says the Gemara, that we learned the following case. Ketana Yerushalmi Gittin. A Ketana who says she a minor who appoints a shliach for Kabbalah. Ain't no get that she get liyoda. It's not a get until it reaches her hands because she doesn't have the authority to appoint the shliach kabbalah. She's a minor. Minors can't appoint shluchim. Me'at of that case, I feel he get liyoda. Ain't no get. Even the get reaches her hands, it shouldn't be a valid get. Why does it get when it reaches her hands? It should even reach her hands should be a good get. Now let's change the next three words. Instead of shuis for shema, should be shahu savor. Because he also daso shliachim miskareshes. Because the husband doesn't know that the minor doesn't have a shliach, so he thinks he's divorcing her with the intent of the shliach. Being a miskareshes only died. In reality, she's only getting divorced on her own cognizance, right? So therefore, there's a time lag, again, when the shliach, which the husband sees shliach kabbalah, in reality is on nothing, is taking the get. So that lag should render the get unfit. So it says more also here, we're talking about a case, we're talking about a case where the husband knows he's not that big a moron. He knows that his wife is a ktana, she's a minor, she can't make a shliach, so therefore he makes this man a shliach kabbalah, a shliach halacha, right? Shliach on his behalf. Rabbi Zira asked, Ad kedun misham raveli v'oyer. Until now we've spoken about, and I understand the case, when she says haveli, bring it to me, v'amar lo, and he says hiskabeli. And and the shliach actually, the woman says, "Bring me my get," and the shliach says, she said, "Accept from me the get." And we said that's no good, right? Because there's a lag, since he had no authority to be a shliach kabbalah, even though he presented himself as such. Amra hiskabeli. What if she said hiskabeli? Vu amar lo haveli. And he said, until now we saw that she said, be a shliach halacha. Right. I'm sorry, I lost it for a second. She said, where she said, bring it to me, and he actually said, accept it to the husband, I was the shliach made to accept it. So then, that's no good. Because there's a lag, right? What about Amra hiskaboli? What if she said, accept it from me? Vu amar lo haveli, and he said haveli, bring it for me. That's what he said. That's what he told the husband. That your wife said, bring me the get. So ashkach tani. So we found a brisa which said, in both of these cases, which argues obviously what we said previously, that harez a get, the get is a valid get, no matter what. But it's interesting, brisa actually holds that where we have a void, where we don't know exactly which shlichus should devolve, what devolves automatically is a shlichus halacha. And therefore, as long as the husband gives the get to a shliach, even if he thought the shliach was a shliach kabbalah, this brisa holds, even since he wasn't able to be a shliach kabbalah, he defaults down to a shliach halacha, to a shliach to bring the get, and therefore the husband can cancel the get anytime he wants. Which is a very big chiddush, but there is such a brisa. Because he didn't, the husband didn't know that. He told the husband, "I'm a shliach hava."
We don't care what he knows or doesn't know. The fact of the matter is,
no, because the husband's das is primary in Gittin. So he gave the shliach the get on the assumption he's a shliach halacha or hava, whichever one. Same idea. We're equating the two. No, then it wouldn't be Rotel Achzir Achzir.
Well, that's what I didn't understand.
No, Rotel Achzir Achzir means to be, as long as the shliach has the get, the husband can renege on the deal.
The default was the shliach l'kavola.
That was a mistake then, if I said that. The default's down to shliach ka'olocha. Yes. So that's... And there's a misrepresentation of the shlichus. That's what this brisa says. So actually, it's a very big kula. It's a leniency because it comes out the misrepresentation doesn't cancel, but rather defaults down to the lowest possible case of shlichus, which is case of shliach halacha. That's what we're saying here. Okay? Verona B'Shem Rav said, Ein Isha, amazing kalach, basically, which is also in the Bible, although I didn't remember it from there. Verona B'Shem Rav says, Ein Isha oitzer shliach kabel gita mishlucha shabala. A woman cannot make a shliach to accept the get from her husband's shliach. Now, it seems like this is kind of a sexist thing, that the reason why she can't do it is because the husband is going to be embarrassed at the chutzpah that his wife won't accept the get personally from his shliach, or something like that. That's someone brings it down here. I think Korban Eidah.
It's like in the business lunch. They have my people call your...
Yeah, so that's degrading. Who brings it down? Today Moshe says it. The Baal is makri because of his bizoyon, that she doesn't want to accept the get herself. So in any event, so says the Gemara, Shmuel heard from him. The law saw Basrei, and law saw, I think, literally means he swallowed it, but here means he repeated it after him, such a big chiddush, 40 times. So that's more, wait a minute. V'atzin, did we learn in a Brisa or a Mishnah? I think it's a Brisa. V'nasan biyado, put the get into her hand. That's the pasuk in the Torah. And li'ela biyada, I only know that you give the get to her hand. V'nai biyad shlucha, I know that you can do it through his agent or her agent. And mishlucha lishlucha, and from his agent to her agent. And mishlucha lishlucha as well. From her agent to his agent. Nobody understands exactly what that means. The way the Shai Torah explains it means that doesn't matter if his appointment of the shliach preceded, or of his shliach was preceded, or her appointment of her shliach preceded. So then if Ephraim changes it, he says, should be like the first line is mishlucho lishlucha, which means his agent give her agent. The second line means mishlucho. It should be not mishlucho lishlucho, but her agent his agent, because there's no such transaction. But rather mishlucho lishlucho. And one of his agents can make another agent. Okay? So you can have multiple agencies, right? Somebody gives a get to another guy to another guy. So how we know this all works. Talmud Lomar v'nasam, because it says multiple times v'nasam, so each time represents a shlichus. So if that's the case, how can you say, Rav, that one shliach can't give his shliach doesn't give her shliach the get, or it's not valid in that case? Matani Yefshi, who's the one who says it's not possible? You can't give a get from shliach to shliach. Rebbe. It's Rebbe. The Tani we learned, if a woman said, except for me, my get. V'holach, that's what she said to the shliach. V'holach v'amar lo, and he went and told the husband, Ishtacha amra, your wife said, Iskabli Gittin. Yeah, which is right. He didn't lie to shliach. Halach. But the husband himself said, Halach. Right? What does halach mean? So that's going to be an issue here. If he brought the get and gave it to her, Zachala, she said the get is valid and she acquires the get. Niskabalon, she has received the get, so just fortifying the expression. But not only that, if he wants to renege after he gave the get to shliach, he may not renege. Divrei Rebbe. Okay, so Rebbe said that if you represent so shliach Kabbalah, and the husband used one of these languages, Halachla or Lichula, I translated before wrong, or Nasula is another language. Nasula, Zachala, Niskabala, I guess it's another language he uses. And these languages, then he's accepting her shlichus and he can't renege on the deal because he's not a shliach halach, it's a shliach Kabbalah. Divrei Rebbe. Rabbi Nosson Omer, if he said Holichula or Nosnola or Zachal, I went back. Nosla Imrata Lahachsir Yachzir. he can renege on the deal. It's not true. Why? Because those are not languages of assent to the shlichus as presented by the woman, as presented by the shliach, but those are languages of disagreement and disavowal, saying, I don't agree to what you say. So actually, it's a little bit choppy, this price, especially because I was choppy in saying it. But the question is when he says, I was appointed shliach kabbalah, and he was appointed shliach kabbalah. And that's what the shliach says. And the husband then says, take it to her, bring it to her, right? Which the language of halacha, heilich-la, holich-la, is he undermine the shliach and say, no, you can't be the shliach kabbalah, you have to be my shliach lo-halacha? Or is he accepting the shlichus and saying, yes, take it to her as you have just stated, right? So that's machlokas Rebbe and Rebbe Nosson, okay? So Rebbe says he's accepting the shlichus, and therefore he can't renege on the deal. Rebbe Nosson says he's not accepting the shlichus, right?
What's the difference in the lashon between heilich and holichu?
There is no difference. Both of them won't work. I mean, both of them will be the subject of machlokas.
Yeah.
They're both the subject of machlokas. Okay? So, yeah, we're going to get to that.
Have her receive this?
No, he doesn't. You mean he wants to reverse? Oh, have her receive? Yeah. We're going to talk about that. Yeah, obviously, according to Rebbe Nosson, anyway, you're asking according to Rebbe. So it says the Gemara. Rebbe Omer says, "Bekulam lo yachzir." In no way here answers your question, Dashel. No way does he have permission to renege on the shlichus. Meaning, in no way does he reverse the agent's agency and make him a shliach lo locha until he says, it's not possible for you to accept it for her. Ela shol talichula, rather bring it to her as my shliach. So he has to, according to Rebbe, he can't pull any punches. He has to explicitly EFC.
So he's usurping a shlichus.
Right.
And he can do that?
Oh yeah. You can just say, your shlichus is null and void. Because he's the master of the get process. The kasha of the Rebbe, you have difficult on Rebbe. Helach min diburi. What about if the guy says to take it according to my say so? So that's what the husband says. In that case, at least, if he wants to renege, he should be allowed to renege, and she should be a shliach halacha, and vice versa. Kasha Rabbi Nosson. Well, difficult Rabbi Nosson was Rabbi Nosson say if the husband said Heilich Dibura, take according to her the directives. In that case, could he possibly take it back? Obviously, he should be bound by the shlichus. So what are the parameters? What are the boundary lines? Rav Huna Amar. So Rav Huna says a novel thing. He actually says Nase shlucha u'shlucha. He says that in a case where he said in ambiguous language, Heilich min dibura, Heilich min dibura. He didn't say EFC, he didn't say Kabbalah, so in that case, actually, it becomes, in that case, it becomes, he becomes the shliach and shlucha. They're both the shliach of the husband and the shliach of the wife. Now that is very strange, right? What does that mean? So says Mar, don't worry. We're not saying anything which is going to be helpful to you. Let's make that clear. That's not our job. We are Amoraim. I say Mar, wherever we say such a strange language that it's her shliach, his shliach, and his shliach, what does it mean? Mugreshes, bein mugreshes. Mugreshes means divorce and not divorce, which means it is a suffix. A suffix, not a washout, a suffix. So we don't know in this case what to do. It's mamish a toss-up. He said, he didn't say EFC, right? He said, Heilich kedibura, right? So in that case, or Helki Diburi or Helki Dibura, I'm sorry. So these languages, we don't know what to do with them. It's Rabbi and Rabbi Nassan. So therefore, we simply don't know how to resolve the shlichus. Now,
modern-day divorce, it's when both sides are using the same lawyer. They're usually not a good thing to do.
yeah.
Each side.
You're supposed to have your own lawyer. That's right. So, yeah. So this actually, all this was to come around to the position that where his shliach gives to her shliach, it's not the divorce is not valid, right? I mean, we said before that you shouldn't give one shliach to another shliach. So we're trying to say, paying a parallel to that case over here. I'm not sure exactly what the parallel is. But we're saying the parallel is a case where we say we have a case where somebody comes shlucho and shlucha, that's a parallel case where we say Megareshes, Fein Megareshes, so to where it's his shliach giving to her shliach, so somehow it's not a valid, it's a suffix erushin. I don't know, it's not clear to me exactly how we're making such a transition and comparison, but that's what the Gemara seems to be doing. Be that as it may. Rabbi Chagai, Kumi Rabbi Yossi. Chagai said in front of Rabbi Yossi, he wanted to say like this. Well, it's a very interesting comparison. The machlokas Rebbe and Rabbi Nosson should be going like the following machlokas, which is to see that we learned over there a very famous machlokas. You were talking with a woman about a get or kiddushin, whichever one, maybe both. Who knows? Okay. Okay, maybe scared away. So it says more, what? Yeah. Or maybe talk about Kiddushin. I tell you about divorce and marriage issues. And you give her a get or Kiddushin. V'lo pirish. And he said gave silently. He didn't say this is your get, this is your Kiddushin. Rabbi Yossi says that suffices. Right. It's a valid get or valid kedusha depending on the scenario. Pick one. You don't need explicit expression. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, you have to specify what you're giving. Let's say V'asi the Rabbi Krabiosi. Rabbi is going to Krabiosi, and therefore we assume that anything is given on the prior conversation unless there's some explicit contradiction. And for Rabbi Nosson, it's going to Rabbi that on the contrary, we assume the prior conversation is no longer up for discussion, and therefore we assume we assume as the husband usurps the shlichus and makes the woman the shliach halacha. So to here, the get or kiddushin given later on is not necessarily going on the basis of the prior conversation, which is a wild and woolly comparison which Yerushalmi is making here. Says Marmalay said, "V'at ma biyadach." What did you hear about the comparison? Rabbi Zira, Rabbi Chia, Barovid, Other Batachli, V'Shem Rabbi Yosha said, "Ma pligin no." He said it's not a comparison. Ma pligin b'sheif ligu atzmam linyon asacheret. They're talking about machlokas where they start talking about something else. But nevertheless, it wasn't too long ago they talked about Gittin and Kiddushin. So Rabbi Yosef says you don't have to be explicit. The Rabbi Yehuda holds you have to be explicit. I suppose so in the end, get to. But if you're still involved in the same conversation, everybody agrees to get even without specification. But here, I feel a sukim also Indian by the shlichus issue, even though the wife shliach just finished saying something. Nevertheless, it's a machlokas whether when the husband reacts, he's still reacting on his own terms or on the wife's shlichus terms. Okay? Now, that all was pretty interesting, but actually all the most interesting part for tonight is actually the next Gemara. And all the Achronim go crazy about this Gemara. All the Achronim, lumdus-wise. A very cool Gemara. Rabbi Zir boy kumi Raimana. Rabbi Zir asked for Raimana. Just a short Gemara. He said, Afli matana kain. What do we say about a gift? Are the most shliach lekabel davar shein shlo? Can I say, I'm convinced that Yankel wants to give me a gift. I have no actual prior knowledge of it, but I know Yankel. Well, I know Yankel. He wants to give me a gift. Be my shliach to accept the gift from me. Is there such a thing? Can I appoint the shliach kabbalah to get a gift? So, what's the most question? Well, it's there.
No, you don't know if Yaakov wants to give it.
Okay, but it's not Davar Shel Ba'Olam. The gift is there.
It is there. No worse than This person on his own.
You don't really want to say that
Why not?
because you'd be wrong.
Not the first time in my life.
But let's see how the Gemara says. Says the Gemara, very lumdish Gemara. Amalei said no. Talmud over there by get. Hatar ziches osab malgita. The Torah is mizaka her in the get. The get will belong to her. The get is something which has to do with being a wife. It doesn't belong to her monetarily, but it's because which belongs to being a wife. The right to accept gittin is a right built into marriages, right? The moment you get married, you're just progressing towards divorce. V'hio says shliach l'kavo davar. Yeah, V'hio said, well, let's give special emphasis to these remarks now. V'hio says shliach, and she makes the shliach l'kavo davar shushalah, to accept something which is hers. Isach me'mat matona. By a gift, you say the same thing. Can a person make a shliach to accept something which is not his? So, as I can say, you can already see in the blog, it's in Yerushalmi, it's called Machneh Ephraim, the Rebbe is very long, or Samech. A gazillion people speak about this, but you saw the Yerushalmi has. Yerushalmi holds you can't make a shliach to accept a gift because the gift is something which you have no affinity to. It's either yours or not yours. And it's not the same thing as Zachin L'Olam Shlo B'Fonav. In Zachin L'Olam Shlo B'Fonav, it's not that the shliach, the person, the third party, I give a third party something, they say, I makne to you that you should make a kinyan on behalf of the third party, right? On behalf of somebody else. That's Zachin L'Olam Shlo B'Fonav. But by shlichus, it's not like that. Shlichus, I want it when I give it to you. Or actually, the recipient wants to say, when it comes to you, it should be as if it came to me. Now, what's the difference? By Zachin L'Olam Shlo B'Fonav, the makne, who's possessing it now, he appoints the individual to whom is giving it to act as proxy for the third party. Who has the object now? The makne. He can appoint the proxy. But in the case of shlichus, who's appointing the proxy? The koine, the guy who wants to acquire it. He has no rights over the object. How can he appoint the proxy over the object? You don't like it, do you?
You know what? The problem is...
Yeah. Well, let me say it again. The case is if let's say I want to be makneh this watch to a third party, right? So now, since I'm the owner of the watch, I have rights to start allocating this watch to wherever I want.
So the situation is, I find out.
So I
want to give it to me as a gift.
No, you don't have to know about that. If I'm the seller, I can say to a third party, you acquire this watch on behalf of Dashel, even though Dashel is not aware of the transaction. See, I can appoint the proxy, because I'm right now in master of the ceremony, right? But you can't say to a third party, Ruvain, you be my shliach to accept the watch on my behalf. You have no authority over the watch to pass to your shliach. Let me say it a bit better. Agency is a matter of delegating authority. I have no authority to accept a gift. I have an authority to accept a get. That's a unique quality of being a wife, that she has the authority to accept a get.
Even if you made like a verbal declaration saying, I will give this to Dashel.
Who's I? The shliach?
You said
The agent or no, of course that'll work. But then I'm making the guy the proxy. You can't make him your proxy, only I can make him your proxy.
Well, if you say that, I find out you made this verbal declaration, I take that send someone over and pick it up.
You can. But unless, you can send anybody to pick it up, but it won't become yours just because he picked it up. Only if I assent to his acting on your behalf.
Oh.
Okay. Now, Reb Meir, what do you want to complain about?
I don't fully look up. I don't know. 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 I don't know thinking about the notion of a lost mitzvah, lost object,
Yeah.
which comes into your possession.
Yes.
Can you appoint a shliach to acquire a mitzvah?
No.
It's just the same kind of issue.
Right. You can hire a poel to go and look for mitzvahs for you. But there it's because he's your worker, not because he's your shliach, your employee.
Can you have your chutzner acquire a mitzvah?
Absolutely.
But aren't workers agents? in this
What?
regard? Aren't your employees agents in this regard?
No, they're not your agents. They may have power of attorney, but usually they're not your agents. You can hire a worker specifically to find things for you, but then that becomes his job. But he's not your agent. And when he picks it up, he has to pick it up with the intent to give it to you. When he picks it up, it doesn't automatically. There's no mechanism in Shas for when I find something to pick it up. That since I'm somebody's agent, automatically becomes as individuals. What I can do is I can pick it up with the intent to acquire for that person. That's called Magbiyah Metzil Chaveru. But then I'm making it special when I make the kinyan, I'm making it on his behalf, not because I'm an agent, but rather because I am now acting independently for his benefit. What? Practical difference would be in this case, whether the makna, the person who's giving the watch, me, could renege until it reaches your hands. Okay? That would be the practical difference. You still want to say something?
I'm missing something. I know there's some logical flaw that just doesn't make sense.
What?
I just can't think of it.
Okay.
Okay, what about the case where there's an orderless object? Then there's no question of reneging. What about having the shliach go pick that up?
There's no such thing.
Well, why? What's the difference between that?
There's no shlichus for that. I have no authority over that object.
Well, what's the difference? If you have an employee go out and get it for you,
Yeah.
you can't keep it. I mean, it's...
Sure he can keep it. Sure he can keep it.
If they make a difference,
I'm paying him to be coded for me.
if he keeps it, he's stealing it.
only when he picked it up. Only when he picked it up, he had in mind to pick it up on my behalf. To make that acquisition on my behalf.
You have no claim over the object?
I can sue him. I can ask him to return his wages. Because I hired him to pick up materials from me and he didn't. But I can only sue him for his wages. I can't sue him for the object.
That's probably...
Is that problematic in American law? Would that be true? I don't know if that's true. The only reason American law
You hire an employee to go pick up.
stuff, and
Keeps the stuff.
you can only sue him for being negligent. You can't sue him for not picking up the stuff because that belongs to you. You can sue for goofing off on the job.
No, if you own a store.
No?
You have a cashier who
Yeah.
is supposed to accept the money from
Oh, come on, but that's
supposed to put it in the...
so that's a thief.
He takes it. Yes, those things are the same thing.
There's not a thief.
If you say your job is to go out and pick up, this money that's lying...
Which belongs to nobody. It didn't belong to the person who sent me to do it. It doesn't belong to anybody. It's not a case of the cashier. The cashier, I gave away that person's object in the store, and whatever I was saying, I gave away the cup of coffee without charging money for it. I stole the cup of coffee from my employer. But here I didn't steal anything from my employer. I just didn't make as much money from my employer as I could have.
He's sending around to pick up a hefker object.
So?
And instead of
He did a lousy job.
and giving it back to the boss, he's keeping it for himself.
Right, so.
So that's
He wasn't doing his job. It's not theft. It's not theft. Come on, it's not theft.
Well, the analogies to corporations, there's something called corporate opportunity.
Yeah.
That is, if something furthers the business of a corporation, and an employee on his own decides to take advantage of that opportunity,
Yeah.
you could be sued by the corporation.
Okay, but that's obviously a very big chiddush.
Wow.
Yeah.
No,
Because what it means is that
safety right employee.
no, I take back, but that's not the same thing. That just means because you were negligent in your obligation to further the benefit of the company.
You're negligent. It's because on the civil side, it's basically you're stealing this from the employer, from the corporation, from the employer, because it should have gone to them, and that's your job.
Why should have gone to them?
Let's say you wouldn't
Because
have
that's
known
what we're
about
business
it.
is doing.
It wasn't
What?
for them.
They're in the business of getting these kinds of objects, and you were hired to do that. Same thing.
Suppose you're a buyer for a department store, and on the side while you're buying, you buy for yourself.
With the department store's money?
No, but on company time.
I mean, you buy something that the corporation or the company would be interested in buying.
Yes.
You buy it for yourself. That's improper.
It's improper, but that's not. It's unconscionable. But I don't know if it's actionable. I don't see. The only reason why it should be illegal is because I'm using company time to further my own goals.
And you're depriving something.
But you're depriving your employees.
That's minias revach. I'm preventing them making a profit, but I'm not causing them a loss.
You're not causing them a loss.
Yeah.
But Nias Rebach is an actionable offense.
Yeah, but only because much less. If I prevent somebody from making a profit, I'm much less liable than if I actually cause somebody a loss. I mean, I don't remember what the parameters are. But it's Dina de Garmi, indirect loss. That's what it comes out to. I'm not sure I got up to before. Let me read quickly from before. So, Kam Rabbi Yossi, I'm going to go back from Kam Rabbi Yossi. Kam Rabbi Yossi, Yaakov, Azavti, Amela, Hein Tzedek, Hein Tzedek, Hein, Hu Hein Tzedek. So, what about that? It has to be true. Amela, B'shosh, Amela, Hein Tzedek. When you said it, you meant it truly. Amela, get Lishti. Now, again, according to the Carbon Ada, the issue is he left out the Lamed. According to the Pnei Moshe, the issue is that he reversed what he said by saying, get Bitov. Get Achusa, and he went and gave it to her. Ain't no get, because according to Kormei, left out the Lamed, Moshe, according to Moshe, because he reversed himself by saying, get Bito, get Achusa. Vice versa, when about case, Tova Shliach, demanded to get, and he gave, the Shliach said the proper Lashon. For Amala said, Ten get Liishti, Ten get Lishto, Amar lo Hela get Lishti, and he said, Hela get Ishti. Again, according to Moshe stresses that there is no lamed. According to Korban Ada, stresses that there is no lamed. According to Pnei Moshe stresses that afterwards he said gibberish, get Bito, get Achoso. He gave it to our raise get. We assume he's going to line the lines of Shliach. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Bun, Rabbi Yamishem, Rabbi Shemi said, Zudi v'rei Rebbe, all this is the position of Rebbe. Chachamim say, Bomeres Yeheli b'yodcha. Chachamim say somebody's got to say Yeheli b'yodcha. The question is who exactly is saying this. The Pnei Moshe says that she has to say Yeheli b'yodcha. In other words, if she didn't say Yeheli b'yodcha, the husband counteracts the shlichus by saying Hola get ishti. However, once she says Yeheli b'yodcha, she said that to the shliach, then the shliach becomes a firm shlichus, which is very difficult for the husband to cancel. According to the Carbon Ada, means the exact opposite. He said that if he doesn't say to his wife, doesn't say to shliach, Yeheli b'yodcha, then it's not. I'm sorry. 1 second. Yeah, according to Carbon Ada, means anytime he doesn't say a lamed, then it's if he's saying to the shliach, let this be for you in my hands as a pikadon, but not as a get. So this line means almost opposite things according to Korban Ada and Pnei Moshe. Let me repeat it again. According to Korban Ada and Pnei Moshe, it says, Chormi bomeres yeheli b'yodcha, means if the woman says to the shliach, the get should be a get for me in your hands. So that makes him shliach Kabbalah, and the husband cannot undermine that shlichus unless he says explicitly something to undermine the shlichus. Now, truth is that Rebbe really said something similar before, so I'm not sure exactly how to square it away with Machlokas Rebbe and Rabbi Nosson before, because Rebbe over there before, unless you say EFSHI, means you can't undermine the shlichus of the woman, right? And here it seems like Chachamim are the ones who say, unless you say EFSHI, you can't undermine the shlichus of the woman. But that's the way the Pnei Moshe learns. The Chachamim are the ones who say that once she says Heli biyotcha, then it's very difficult to undermine her shlichus unless he explicitly counteracts the shlichus. The way the Korban Eid again learns it means unless the husband says a lamed, it's as if he's saying to the shliach, don't take it to her, but safeguard it for her. Amar China said, Halacha Kram Gamliel. The halacha Gamliel that when it says in our Mishnah, when a woman says, Tol Giti, take my get for me, that's considered also to be shliach Kabbalah. She doesn't just have to say Kabbali, but Toli also works the same way. Okay? Amar China said, Halacha Kram Gamliel, Visha Amra Lo, but she's got to say shliach Toli, either take it for me, or Yehei, and the word li has got to be there. Yehei li biyotcha. Why does she have to say li? Because that means it's for me once you take it. Now the Pnei Moshe would have said, learned to told one and say, since she has to say, Toli Yehei li biyotcha. That's very, very difficult though. So the Pnei Moshe holds that it's not enough, he has to say that whole line. And Amudi Yerushalmi Gittin says there's no source for it. Nobody else said that before or after the Pnei Moshe. So we assume that it's two separate possible statements, and the critical component of the statement is the word li. That makes the guy shliach l'Kabbalah. Chad by not shol lead to say a certain person sent to get to his wife. Amra lei, she said to her shliach, Yeheli biyotcha. That language. Let it be a get for me in your hands. Now this is pretty much not a Korban Eid before. The Korban Eid said before that Yeheli biyotcha, the statement which is made by the husband to the shliach, to tell the shliach, it should only be a pikadon, not a get. Anytime you don't use a lamed, it's as if you say that. But from this phrase and more here, you can see clearly it's the woman who's saying this. So that means that this language is a language used by the woman to make a shliach Kabbalah. Not a language used by the man to say don't give it, but a language used by the woman to make the shliach Kabbalah. So also Uvda Kum Rabbi Rav Amari says, if the husband gave the get to the shliach on that basis, he can't renege because that's taka shliach Kabbalah. So it's more Mao Polik. Does he argue? Because our mission didn't mention that, so the Gemara says no. Shani uyebi otcha. This is what Rabbi Chanina said before, that yeheli biyotcha, right? Yeheli biyotcha should really have the yeheli. I'm sorry. No, he makes it says shani yehi biyotcha. Shani yeheli biyotcha. Depends what he says. If it says yehi biyotcha, yeheli biyotcha. So if you say yeheli biyotcha, then it's a shliach Kabbalah. Yehei biyotcha, then that taka is a meaningless lashon, and then it might only be like the Korban Eid said before, a pikadon. Okay? Says Armei Chizker on a yad the Reish of Sefer. I know the beginning and the end, meaning I know a contradiction which I can resolve. Isha achas also shliach kabel gita mishluchei abal. A certain woman made a shliach to accept a get from the husband's emissaries. So it's agent from agent, we said before, is no good. Asuv the Kumi Rav said, Omar, Imrotza l'hachsir lo yachsir. Rav said it's a valid shlichus, the shliach Kabbalah, and the shliach l'aloch is also good. And if he wants to renege, he can't renege on the deal. Once it goes stands to the shliach. Now, Amar Avuna b'shem Rav, I'm sorry, B'chavish does Rav. Rav seems to contradict itself. Tam Ravuna b'shem Rav. Ravuna said name Rav elsewhere. Eina isho seshli el kabel gita mishluchei bala. A woman can't make a shliach to accept a get from a husband's agent. Yet here it says it works. Lochol marachein. Here he says the opposite. So Ani Omer, so he says, very interesting answer. He says, This is a case where he was standing behind the door and heard his wife. It was in basement. The husband and wife don't want to come into contact with each other. So one's standing in one room and the other standing in the other room, right? So it happens very frequently, I assume. So in this case, he knew that she appointed Shliach Kabbalah. And nevertheless, he appointed Shliach Holocha. In that case, we say it's not a bizoyin of the husband. In that case, we say the husband acquiesces, obviously, because he knew that she appointed Shliach Kabbalah, so, and he appointed Shliach Holocha after that. So then I say that in that case, one Shliach can give the get to another Shliach, because the whole problem was bizoyin abal, and he'll be upset, but in this case, obviously, he knew about it and accepted it. Okay, new Mishnah. Yerushalmi Gittin, a woman who said, "Accept from me my get," she needs 2 sets of edim. Two people in front of which, who say that she appointed them her shliach in front of us. She appointed him her shliach in front of us. The two say that he accepted the get in front of us. The Korah and ripped it because there's a halacha you rip a get when you receive it. It could be the same witnesses who witnessed the bestowing of the authorization and a witness giving the get. That makes no difference. It could be one of the first said, one of the others said, somebody else joining with them. It doesn't matter, but you need 2 witnesses. Now, who accepts the get? Now, Marasa, girl's betrothed and she's between 12 and 12 and a half. Either she or her father can accept her get. There are no 2 hands which can accept the get. It's always only one. Until she's 12 and a half, her father is the sole authority to accept her get. Now, when she's a katana, she's not old enough to watch her get, and her husband, then any guy, she can't be divorced altogether, even if you give it to her father. She's too young. Katana Shami Skabli Giti, a girl who said we had this previously, the girl who said to Shliach, accept my get, ain't no get a chigiliyot, that's not again until it reaches her hands, because she has no authority to appoint the Shliach. The vehicle therefore Ratza Baal Achzir, if her husband wants to renege, Yachzir, he can renege even after the get is in the hands of Shliach. Shena Katan is the Shliach because the Katan cannot make an agent. B'imam Allah Ovia say v'kabel biti gita. If however the father said to the agent, go and accept my daughter's get, Im Ratza Achzir lo Yachzir, then the guy can't renege because the Shliach Kabbalah is acting on behalf of the father, not on behalf of the daughter. That's a quote for a Mishnah. What about who moda? What about where the agent agrees that he was the shliach and that he received the get? You thought, shliach, why can't he be a witness also? So it's interesting. Yerushalmi doesn't talk about ein shliach nasa eid. Maybe Yerushalmi doesn't hold the problem of ein shliach nasa eid. The Bavli says a shliach cannot become an aid. Yerushalmi doesn't bring that down. Yerushalmi says he put the shliach where the shliach was a relative. She appointed her relative to accept the get. So here you see that the Einachanami Shliach can become an aid. Adam Rashakarv Nas Shliach, they teach us that a witness can become, a relative can become a Shliach. And that's why we're not assuming that the Shliach is one of the Eidim. Okay, going to the next part of Mishnah. Now Murasa, now I should write that down, see the Bavli, see it's already Yerushalmi. Okay. Now, truth is, we paskin, but the ain't shliach not say by the rises, but by the rabbanan they can. By the rabbanan, shliach can become a witness on whatever shlichus was. So, but l'maisa, the Yerushalmi doesn't bring down the whole thing. So it sounds like Yerushalmi doesn't hold it all together. Nam rasiva aviv kab megita. Reish Lakish amar kamachlokas begitin, kach machlokas bekidushin. The same level say about who can accept a get is machlokas bekidushin, whether when she's a nara between 12 and 12 and a half, both the father and the daughter can accept kedushin, or only the father. Rabbi Yochanan says no. By kedushin, akom bodim kedushin shavia mekacher velohi. By kedushin, everyone agrees the father is in charge, not her. By get, it could be either or, but by kedushin, it's always he. Motor Reish Lakish and Reish Lakish also concedes that even if kedushin, she can marry herself on for kedushin, but nisuin,
when it comes to actually moving in with her husband, she has no authority to move in on her own. You know why? Bottom line. Because when she moves in with her husband, her father loses her handiwork. Until then, he owns her handiwork. This is not a question of love and romance, it's a question of money. So it comes to money, the father's not willing to relinquish his rights. Went to be Makadish, so he doesn't lose the handiwork yet. But when he's suing, later lose the handiwork, and that he's not willing to, he doesn't relinquish unless, only in his own authority. Okay? Al Dait Rabbi Yochanan, Ein Das Itzlaviyah, Ein La Das Itzlaviyah, according to Rabbi Yochanan, she has no Das in the place where she has a father. Ve'en as a shliach can make a shliach. Das Reish Lakish, Yesh La Das Itzlaviyah, she does have Das even where she has a father. V'yos shliach, she can make a shliach as well. Masisa Plig Rabbi Yochanan seems that the Mishnah argues Rabbi Yochanan says, Aish Makadish Bo V'shlucha. It says a man could be married he himself or by an agent. It says a woman that doesn't differentiate can marry she and her agent. Says more, no, it's about Pasal B'Gdol, it's about a woman over 12 and a half. But a woman up to 12 and a half, she cannot. Okay? Says the Gemara Vati, then we learn Katana Yerushalmi Gittin Eino Get that Shiakia Get Liyoda. Wait a minute, it doesn't say a Katana who said, accept my get for me. It's not a get until it reaches her hands, but when it reaches her hands, it is a valid get. How come? So it says her husband's got to get, her father's got to get it. Plus our law, be a soima. That's talking about an orphan. How can it say it's talking about an orphan? But he doesn't say Amar lo avia say biskabel bitigita. Says her father said, go accept for my daughter her divorce. He must achsir lo yachsir. If the father said it should become a shirkabal on behalf of the father, and there's no reneging. So it says there that she's got a father. So he explains it's Sonny Mimasi. So the Mishnah has two parts. It goes in two directions. Reish B'Yisrael, part of it's talking about a case where she has no father. But Seva B'Yeshalav, in the end, it's talking about where she does have a father. Okay? Let's just go to the bottom of the page. Masis will take another 2 minutes. Masisa Pliya Reish Lakish, Mishnah also seems to argue Reish Lakish. The following the Mishnah says, Ish Mekadish is Bito, Kshinara Bo Ubashlucho. A man can marry off his daughter when she's a Nara. Both he and his agent can marry off his daughter, but not her agent. According to Reish Lakish, she should be able to marry herself off as well, right? So says more pasuk Rabbi Yehuda, it's going like Rabbi Yehuda. And a Rabban holds she can marry herself as well. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says, "Ain't shtei daim zochos kachas." So it's only one has the right, only him, the father, and that's what the mission is going like Rabbi Yehuda. Says more to Rabbi Yossi. And read that it says Dalit, Rabbi Yossi, but it's not a continuation of the previous sugi. It's a new thing. Rabbi Yossi said, it's a carbonated takes out the Dalit. Rabbi Yossi, sorry. Rabbi Yossi, Chad bar Rav Nafik Beis Vado. A certain student came out of the base medrash. Amrei said, Nafik goes to Rabbi Yochanan, Pascha Rabbi Yochanan, that by Kiddushin only your father can marry off, not she herself. B'samchin olavi, and we rely on that rabbi who came out of the base medrash and those is halacha. And lo b'tzarach misbach olav, it might not be that he was a reliable rabbi. Ella, but the Abbas min Yamal Atikni was like from the pot to the frying, from the water to the frying pan, meaning that it was very, very close. When he came out of the base medrash, he had just come out of the base medrash a few moments ago, and therefore he could not have forgotten what they said. So if the guy is not so reliable, in this case, it was like suddenly a fish which went right out of the sea into the frying pan. It was so quick, so he surely remembered. Okay? Says the Chevra said there was another machlokes Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. Whether chotzer means whether your yard can acquire your get for or your kedushin for you, or your 4 amos can acquire your get for you. Actually, by kedushin didn't say arba amos. Rabbi Yochanan Amar yesh l'chotzer v'yesh l'arba amos. So Yochanan says a nara has the concept of a chotzer and arba amos. That type of shlichus she has. Reish Lakish Amar ein lo chotzer vein lehem arba amos. The Reish Lakish says she doesn't have a chotzer nor arba amos, because obviously this is not the type of shlichus which requires bestowal of agency. It's like an automatic shliach. So the question is, does a nara have such a shlichus, or even a shlichus like this she doesn't have? Because just like she can't authorize a shliach where she has a father, so she doesn't have the shlichus of a chotzer or a daled amos. Okay, even that. Actually, the way the Korban Ein learns it, I didn't realize it's talking about a ketana, not about a nara. So it's talking about Gedola, I guess, would have a chotzer and arba amos. So it'd be considered to be an extension of herself. If she can accept a get, then she can, her chotzer or daled amos can accept a get as well. The question is by a ketana, does she have a get, chotzer and daled amos? That's what the Gemara is asking, and it's a machlokas. Right, Reish Lakish says, "Ein l'chotzer." Rabbi Yochanan says she does, and Reish Lakish says she doesn't. Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Chotzer pleaded. Rabbi Elazar says that chotzer is the machlokas, but arba amos she doesn't have, and the Korban Ein explains daled amos takonis lachamim. That your daled amos is considered like yours to be get is takonis lachamim to make it and work more efficient, more speedily. I don't know, speed is the right word. More effectively. So they didn't give such takana to a ketana, only to a gedola. Okay, we'll come back to the issue tomorrow.